Hi. So, while I'm not the best person to present information, I do feel like it's needed to talk about. And one of the things, you might have read it today that, hey, Galactic Federation is in contact with humanity, and they're saying that, they want to help us and they want people to learn and stuff, but people are not ready yet. So, we have, former head of Israeli space program saying that, hey, aliens has not to be revealed, and humanity is not ready yet, and there's a whole article that a lot of you probably have read already. And, Isaac told one of the things that the UFOs have asked not to publish that they're here. Humanity is not ready yet. Trump was on the verge of revealing, but the aliens in the Galactic Federation are saying, wait, let people calm down first. They don't want to start mass hysteria. They want to first make sure we're sane and understanding. And they have been waiting for humanity to evolve and reach the stage where we will generally understand what space and spaceships are. There's an agreement between the US government and the aliens that they signed a contract with us to do experiments here, and they too are researching and trying to understand the whole fabric of the universe, and they want us as helpers. There's an underground base in the depth of Mars where their representatives are, and also our American astronauts. And basically the same, Eshel is saying, if I had come up with what I'm saying today 5 years ago, I would have been hospitalized. And so, wherever I'm gone with this in academia, they've said that this man has lost his mind, and today they're already talking differently. So blah, 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 blah. A lot of this information, you might have read the articles yourself. There's a lot of, people talking about, a lot of people are trying to cover it up. And cover it up as in, cover this subject, not to cover up, not to reveal it. But, there's a lot of, people and, things you can read about this whole subject. And here's the thing. Yes, Galactic Federation is real. But when we're talking about the Galactic Federation, it's not there's only one thing. It's not there's only one ET group. When we're talking about Galactic Federations, there's tons of them. Who's to say who exactly we're talking about? We have heard about the Astro Command, about Sananda, about the other beings, and, you look at the Galactic Federations, and there's, tons of trends and people are talking about these subjects. You just look at all the, logos and everything out there. People who are doing channeling, people who are, actually projecting, remote viewing, have met tons of these beings all the time. So it is out there. But to say that, oh, we're so awesome and we want you to get better, so we're trying to see you evolve and get better, and we're ready to give you all the information when you are ready for it, but humanity is not there yet, and blah, blah, when time is right, you're gonna get it all. That's all bullshit. The whole thing about, they're gonna come here and save us, or they're gonna share all the information, it's not gonna happen. Literally, if we're expecting some ETs to land their spaceships and, visit us and, hi, all this stuff, it's not happening. Far from it. The whole thing about, disclosing and, is humanity ready? It's not about humanity being ready. It's not about that. There's much more to it. What I'm talking about is that if the government says, what people in the, officials and scientists and everyone else was ridiculing people who were interested in aliens, who were we're not alone. If you believe that we're alone in this massive freaking universe and multiverse, it's just no chance we're gonna be alone. No chance. And so, with all the equations people have, how to count lives and, the possibilities, there's tons of them out there. Tons. And even, then, we had, even in the past, Eisenhower meeting with aliens and, all the other things, you can read that, guy and, all the stuff. There's a lot of information of government officials being in contact with other ETs, and there's a lot to it. But when it comes to people being ready for it, it's not about, is humanity ready for it? No. And I'm repeating myself, but what I want to say is, if governments disclose and say hey, aliens exist, it's not about the massive panic, oh my god, there's aliens, what the fuck? Come on, we've been watching movies for decades now. Do you like Star Wars? Why? It does have aliens. Are you surprised? Do you think they would not exist? How many movies and TV shows and games and other things have you saw that has aliens? Are you surprised when you see them? Are you panicking? What's going on in your mind when you see them? Most people are oh yeah, they're just some other being, it's okay. We're making it normal now. We also have commercials where, People are trying not to be racist, and they're like trying to like put like let's say a white person and a black person together and don't be racist, and that's the commercial. There's also the commercial where they put a completely blue boy, like little baby boy, like, well, what is that, like a little like a blue skin color? We don't have that on Earth. Oh, it's an alien. Well, be like, don't be racist and like be tolerant to those beings as well. Like, we have tons of things slowly coming out. We have government officials coming out and saying like, hey, we actually are in contact. We actually saw tons of UFOs. Like, people from the Navy, from the Air Force are talking about it. Like, there's a lot of whistleblowers sharing the information that they have been in contact. But it's not, like, it's not hard to believe that we're not alone. It's hard to believe that, like, hey, governments have been lying to you for a while now. If they say that aliens exist, one is they have to change their laws of physics, because they're saying like, well, if you actually use the, let's say, wormholes, like your whole body will change and you're just gonna become a slime and your whole body will deform. So all of a sudden they have to rewrite their laws of physics. They have to change the economics because, oops, humanity will find out that we actually can have our unity devices, that we actually can have the never-ending energy sources. Oops, fucking oil companies will no longer make a profit off us. We can no longer do other things. And people who are profiting from that, from us not knowing that we can actually have engines that can run the whole life and like just like never-ending. Like, hey, come on. Tons of people will lose their jobs and tons of people will not stop making profit from what is like really good for them. They don't want that happening. They don't want rewriting everything. They don't want you believing in that stuff. And so like the whole time we've been saying like, hey, aliens don't fucking exist. Stop like talking about it. You're a conspiracy theorist. Shut the fuck up. Like, come on. It's not about people like having a hard time believing that aliens exist. Galactic Federation is just one of them. And there's tons of these beings. There's tons of them. Not just one Galactic Federation of whatever. There's millions of them, So with all that being said, I would say actually humans, and specifically those in the government, so that have more influence on people, they would have a harder time changing up their laws. It's more like we've been ridiculed. Like, people who believe in aliens have been ridiculed for a long time, and now, why all of a sudden it's coming out to the light? Why all of a sudden people are saying like, hey, they actually exist? We have like CIA like disclosing tons of documents with like, we had encounters, we have other things, and you can find it all online. It's open information. And I don't know, like, you as a person, do you have a hard time believing that aliens exist? How would you react? Like, aliens exist. It's not that they're coming and landing here. It's not that they're gonna go and teach us and stuff. Do you simply panic when like there are other life forms out there? Do you panic? How do you react? And so like they're saying that humanity is not ready for it. Bitch, please. It's like we're being told like about this like whole corona and pandemic and other thing, and it's like like all the people who buy this hoax, like, virus exists, okay, but the whole pandemic and the bullshit, like, like masks work and all this stuff, if you listen to those who have been into like medicine, into virology, like understanding virus and how it like works, and actually coming out and trying to tell like, hey, it's bullshit, it's not like what they tell you. If you listen to people like that, what kind of view are you getting? Do you panic when you hear that? Are you all like, oh my god, like, like, I don't believe that people have a hard time understanding and like, oh my god, we're not alone. There's much more than that. Why for years and decades we've been shown like tons of different ETs, and we had tons of movies and TV shows with aliens and other kind of creatures. Somehow that's okay. Watching that is okay and we're not panicking. But to believe that they're out there is all of a sudden humanity will be in mass hysteria. Shut the fuck up. We're not gonna be there. I mean, I might come out as hateful, but for me, like, this whole subject is touchy, because people who've been saying all along that like, hey, there's much more to life than you know. There's much more. We can actually have devices and technology that will like have like infinite power, that have actually like like never-ending electricity, that can actually power like just imagine how advanced we could get if we were not limited. If government actually shares some of the information. Sure, like a lot of those UFOs we see are from governments. They have their own technology, but just because they actually like, let's say, capture or like see one of those spaceships and reverse engineer it and have it for themselves, it's a common thing. Man, I don't know, like, just like looking at these articles and saying like humanity is not ready for it. Like, what are your thoughts? Why do you think humanity would not be ready? Like, I feel like only those, like, let's say, same people who have a hard time believing that, like, there are chemtrails, or that 9/11 was an inside job, or that, like, let's say the whole pandemic is actually a thing and, like, you know, like, it's just used against you, like, it's actually not true. Man, I feel like those people who are, like, have a hard time buying and believing the real deal are, like, you know, like, yeah, they would probably, like, have a hard time digesting it. But other than that, come on. Tons of people were, like, okay with, like, hey, I'm playing games, I'm watching movies, and there's aliens there all over the time. Like, sci-fi is my favorite thing. We're all into, like, let's say, like getting better and, like, seeing technology. People love Star Wars, people love Star Trek. Somehow that's okay. But all of a sudden, like, oh my god, people are not ready. Like, shut the fuck up, you know? Man. Like, let's say Galactic Federation is the real deal, right? Like, they exist. They're out there. But it's not just the Galactic Federation. There's plenty of them. Tons of them, different groups. Like, we have government, the government. Yeah, like, we have government in the US, we have government in, like, Russia, we have government everywhere else. Every single country has its own government. So, like, same thing with the Galactic Federation. There's just tons of them. And who's above them? Who's the leader? Who are they in contact with specifically? Well, they don't want to tell us all about it, but slowly they're sort of like, yeah, well, we saw like whistleblowers from the Navy and, like, Air Forces are sharing the footage and, like, saying that they exist and stuff like that. Somehow that's okay, but, like, big deal, you know? Like, so I don't know. I think it's important to talk about it because it's all about being ready to accept that we're not alone. It's about being ready to accept that, like, your whole life you've been lied to. And that we have tons of technology, and that the government will have hard-ass time changing things back to the way it should be. Changing things back into, like, okay, we have to get rid of oil companies because we can actually have never-ending energy. We can actually have to change laws and physics and other rules and other, like things we have talked about, and, like, sort of to help us understand reality, because it's been taught us in a way that would program us to believe a certain way. And now you have to deprogram people. That's the problem. The problem is, like, you know, you have to change belief system of, like, tons of people. Not that there's another life out there, because you lied your ass off your fucking time while you were in the government, like, so long that people believe that, like, oil is the only thing that can carry the whole thing. Like, fuck oil, fuck oil companies, fuck, like, running all the things on gas and stuff. Like, we can have all those technologies, like, you know, like, let's say a car that will, like, never stall, a car that will, like, you know, like, constantly be run by, like, electricity or other things, and not Tesla, not that, like, something better, like, even like running the car on the water. It's possible. Tons of possibilities, except, like, we're not talking about such things. We're not talking about, like, your over unit devices. We're not talking about, like, let's say having, like, fuck nuclear power plants and other things, fuck coal mines and other things, because we can actually have all the stuff with over unit devices. Just, like, okay, whole Earth, one, like this massive building with over unit device, and all of a sudden everyone has never-ending electricity. No more need to pay for the things because it runs on its own. All of a sudden, the government's like, oh shit, how else do we pay our, like, fucking debts and tax people, and taxation is theft? Come on. So, I don't know. It's not about the Galactic Federation and people not being ready. So, like, governments and people who are, like have more authorities have lied their asses off so long that now to reverse everything, man, it's not about people not being ready. It's about governments trying to change the story and say, like, oh, they actually were there all along and we were trying to tell you, but people would not believe that because they had a hard time, like, digesting it. Like, shut the fuck up, you know? You're the one saying that, like, we're the bad ones, we're the conspiracy theorists because we believe in such things, we're the conspiracy theorists because we believe in over unit devices. But all of a sudden, when we have tons of other ETs out there with technology that, like, no one understands here, or, like, is no one, like, ready to tell us about it, like, all of a sudden, like, we're like, oh, you were I don't know, shut the fuck up and, like, stay silent because we're the ones who are in power and stuff like that. Like, come on. I'm not doing a good video of covering it up, but I don't believe that people would panic. Just, like, come on. I would rather be told the truth, even if it's a slap on the face, than told a sweet lie and, like, oh yeah, like, it's like aliens don't exist, calm down. Like, shut the fuck up, you know? Like, we're not alone. It's, like, obvious. Like, why show us all those movies? It's not just, like, out there just for entertainment. It's, like, literally self-disclosure, just, like, trying to tell us, like, slowly. And come on, if like, Hitler was invading France, would it matter for a person, like, you know, like, it's already being invaded, and the person in the France, like, ah, yeah, I don't believe it, I don't buy that shit, like, you know, like, and then all of a sudden when he comes with his armies and stuff, you would start panicking. So, like, it's already too late for that. Come on. Like, governments already fucked up with lying their asses off their whole life, that, like, right now to sort of, like, turn things around to say like, oh well, we can actually have open unity devices, we can actually travel in space, we actually have tons of thingies, but like, it's not that humanity would have a hard time believing that. It's that they've lied their ass off for too long that like now it's actually hard to put back the normal story like the way it is. And so it would be a slap on their face. It's actually the governments who fucked up would have a hard time changing things up. So yeah, I'm being a bit charged because of how much deception we have. And people saying like, like aliens don't exist, or simply like, not buying it. There's just much more to life than that. And I don't know. That's my little take on it. I might not be like right on everything, but come on. Like, think about the economics, the like physics, the mathematics, and like everything else, like everything we've been taught our whole life. We would realize that like, oh, most of it was lies to make it easier to explain shit. And all of a sudden, governments would have to change their ways of like how everything is. And that's not easy. Like lying your ass off to create a nice picture to make you believe like, hey, it's the only way to go because there's no other place. Like, come on. We know that's not true. So yeah, I guess to wrap it up, we look at like again like this article and saying that like, do you believe that people would panic? Do you believe like what do you think? What do you think? Like, do you think like you would panic? How would your relatives react? How do you think people would react? And like, what do you think like is the bigger thing like regarding it? Because like, it's not about like Trump or like trying to disclose it or not disclosing it and stuff like that. It's like I would not put everything on Trump. Like, oh, Trump is not telling us the truth. There's plenty of people in the governments that know all about it. Like, why just Trump? Other presidents were in contact too. If Eisenhower was one of them, and that's back in the 1954, then come on, we have Obama, we have Bushes, we have other beings like over there. Come on, they could have told us all about it too, but why? Why bother? They're just like, sort of like profiting from us. Anyway, I'm talking too much, but come on. So that's my take on it. Please share your thoughts, because like I think it's important to talk about such a thing, because like aliens exist in my opinion, and there's much more to life. There's much more to technologies we have, and right now I think people would just be more surprised that like you don't have to use oil, but you can actually have never-ending energy, and that would be a hard thing to believe from more people who are actually profiting from oil and other stuff. So, but like, come on. Share your thoughts on the subject. It's important to talk about it. So I'm going to wrap it up for now. Thanks for watching. Bye.